Yeah. So today I will be teaching again on Trump, but I'm mainly going to be teaching about this is an ongoing process, learning about what is democracy. It's thrown in as part of a political agenda like communism or socialism and all kinds of other things. Democracy is not that. It's a very difficult thing to really understand because it's based on love. It's based on a soulful quality that evolves, into human nature. And when we govern democratically. It's in a lot of the utopian levels, we think of, everybody has it made, everybody's got money, everybody's got everything they need, and it's all kind of free and those kind of things. That's really not democracy. Democracy has to do with reality. We need food, we need a house, we need our regular conditions of education, we need to learn about our health, we need to be able to do something about our health, whether it be with doctors or herbology or other natural means and yoga or exercise. We need to be able to know about these things so we can live our life. These are the things that come to a human being when they're dealing with a life. I'm going to be this age, I'm going to be that age, but when it comes down to it, really you need to provide yourself a living, and what is the living? When we're ignorant and we're afraid of not making a living, and we're held up by the past of kings and queens and people who dictated and took all the money and, made it impossible for people to make a living. A lot of people were turned into slaves and indentured slaves or, criticized by their social status or their looks and their family. Having any kind of history in that family, it carries over. If you're a really biased, prejudiced group of people, it's hard to get out of that, So a lot of countries are afraid of whether or not they're going to lose respect. Because in time, that's about all you had, you were poor, you barely made it, and the main thing you didn't want is to be embarrassed. So if your child did something embarrassing, you almost wanted to kill the kid, hide it, run it into a closet, if it had issues that were not social, it was embarrassing. If they were interested in other people that's not social, it was an embarrassment, and no matter what country you're in, no matter what religion you have, a lot of times this embarrassment thing comes in, and it really holds, for a long time, it holds over you your lack of ability to seek life, to even study or, get a direction, So, but you have to live your life. So while we're in life, we become materialistic. It's our survival. We become more addicted or culturally aligned to what food is, and how much food can we get, and then the culture of making that food and the identity of that food. So it almost becomes nationalized, like you think of Italy, pizza, spaghetti, you think of Japan, Japanese food, you think of China, Chinese food, you think of, Africa, African food, you think of anything of culture. Quite often it goes into the food. Because they have a lack of ability to actually spread their wings that far and, not get stuck in their bias as to their culture. So this leads to a sense of nationalism, or pride for your country. And that could lead you into communism or socialism or, your belief in your king and your queen and your nation, your kingdom. Or if you're in another country and you're seeking some kind of freedom, then it's your country, it's nationalism. So I'm from Denmark, or I'm from Sweden, or I'm from, different areas, and you get that in people. That's a part of their lack of growth. We haven't yet developed a real understanding on a planetary level, on a global level, what it's like to be a human being, and how we survive. We have not figured it out, So there's people who capitalize on that, and they call it capitalism, and the countries that are really corrupt and really do make a lot of money, especially America. It lives off of capitalism. It capitalizes on everything, on everybody, from slavery in the beginning to children during the 30s and 1910, 1912, 1930, You built machinery that was the size for a child to climb into, not a human being. Children did the labor of those really hard things, including going up smokestacks in England. The chimneys were made specifically for the size of a child to climb up into. Because that was the kind of mindset we had with labor, and we took advantage of these little creatures because they did really hard labor, and whether they died or not, there wasn't a lot of care about it. It was about God and the machine, making money, materialism, and taking advantage of people. But that just happened naturally. Just happened naturally, So when we get to wars where they enslave people and they terrorize people and they kill people and they do all those things, it is part of this energy. It's part of this process. We have not ever learned how to live. So we have all these really badass things that can happen in our social system, and one of the worst is where you get into a place to where you, like in America, we're really very nationalistic people, patriotic people, but we're the opposite of that, We'll wear flags for underwear, we'll wear flags on our shirts, we'll put flags on our hats, and still say we're patriotic or nationalist, putting the flag on us, giving that statement, but in reality, you're decreeing the fact you hate the fact of America, that it's just a delusion over the fact that everybody else sucks. It's your bias. And it's not about the country, it's your bias, your willingness to express your bias. You do the same thing for your football team. You put your colors on, you put this on. You'll paint your whole truck with the letters Trump on it, Crazy as shit, because of bias. And it has nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with us not having a position in life. That our life is completely delusionary. And we're being abused. And we're right in the middle of the very central point of what it is that's abusing us, which is capitalism. There's Marxism, there's communism. We all say, oh, those dictator communists, they're like the worst you can ever imagine. But is that true? Is that really true? Look at America. We have wages that are $7 an hour. And now it's up to $9 an hour. $9 an hour. And this is for people who work full time, and they have to give up those wages to taxes and insurance and benefits, and a lot of times they don't get benefits, such as, they don't get paid leave. Not 1 day, not 2 days, not 3 days, not 4 days, nope, none. They don't get paid hospital leave, nope, not 1 day, not 2 days. They don't get maternity leave, no, not 1 day, not 2 days, not 1 year. But if you leave America, you just go up to Canada, you get all that. You get all that. And what you're going to get paid per hour is very different too. And you go to another country, that you think is all screwed up, like Denmark, And you go, oh, that's a socialist country. No, no, no. Yeah, it's not socialist. No, they have labor unions, people. Labor unions. And it does not change the cost of what it is you're buying, doesn't it? It doesn't at all. But this side of capitalism lies. That's all they do is lie. To cover up their ability to continue with slavery. They don't want to end. They don't want to quit. They don't want to have anything to do with human rights, empathy, compassion, and ending slavery. Domesticated slavery. Yeah? Domesticated slavery. Imagine. You're a person who wants to work in a restaurant, you know? And you're going to serve people. I mean, it is like a long job, tiring, on your feet. You got to remember everything, and you got to serve it right. And you got to communicate between you, the customer, and the cook. And you take all the brunt. And you're going to get a tip, you know? But the truth is, in America, we have this thing that was passed over from the English, over slavery. And when they used to slave people, they would say, well, no wages. You live from your tips. Yeah, so that's where tips came from, was money you gave to slaves. Money you gave to slaves. And that was passed over into our legislature, into our legislation, into our bills and action, into the United States, to where we changed our minimum wage to a wage in which you can be considered a slave. And you only get $2.75 an hour. And the rest is made up by tips. So you're really not getting tips. You're paying for your wages from your tips. It's very capitalistic, extremely capitalistic. And then on top of that, every restaurant requires you to give them 5% of every tip, because it has to go to the busboys, the cooks, you know, other people who don't get tips. It's all, everybody puts that in, and it goes out every night. So what if a person doesn't tip you, but they got $100 bill? And you should have got, 20% on that, so that's $20. You could have given the 5%, which would have been $5, yeah? And you would have made $15. Yeah, somewhat okay, yeah. But the person skips out, doesn't give a tip at all. Now you're required to pay that $5, even though you didn't get money. You still have to give it into the pot. You still do. And people do that all the time, at least once through 3 times a week, and they're not making that much money. And, the system is set up that way. It's legislative. It is a political thing. The reason why people are poor, the reason why people have wages of $7 to $9 an hour is because of politics. It has nothing to do with common sense, human rights. It costs too much. The burger would cost you a whole bunch more. It's not true. Yeah, you can go to McDonald's. You can pay people $20 an hour rather than $7 or $9 an hour for the manager and the person in charge of every single thing, 12 hours a day. That's all they get. Yeah. But go to Denmark and they're going to pay you $20 an hour for the same job. And nobody goes in there looking at you like you're a piss-ass, poor-ass person. They look down their nose on. Take video going into McDonald's. Take video of people's faces as they go up and talk to the people who are working at McDonald's. And just consider, being open-minded and watching the interaction between people who treat these people like they're dirt. And no, they don't like to look in their eyes. They don't like to make any kind of real contact because they think of them as dirt. Because we're all in this capitalist piece of shit. And we're all enslaved in this thing. There are many people out there working 2 or 3 jobs a day. Yeah? Because they're told by magazines and by TV articles and by rich people who run Amazon and people who are running, Elon Musk, he always says, hey, sleep maybe 4 hours a day. I work, and I get ahead. Amazon, yeah, I work until I get ahead. They all say that. And then everybody else is going, no, yeah, what do we got to do? I'm willing to be an Uber driver as one of my 3 jobs so I can have that constant work ethic. Yeah? That's taking people's lives away, but it's actually, you're actually supporting corruption. It's like, we're in a drug-addicted society, and just by you going, oh, you poor thing, let me give you some drugs. You'll be okay, stay on drugs. Just supporting it, not doing anything about it. So what do you do about it? Yeah? What do you do to change the situation? You can't really jump up against politics. You can't really, make major differences in how much money people are getting paid, But you can't quit your job, completely. Yeah. And you can live a lot lighter for a lot less and be a minimalist and not follow this whole line of thought, which is propaganda. Yeah, you're going to get it on the news. You're going to get it on TV. You're going to get it in magazines. You're going to get it on Twitter. You're going to get it on Facebook. It's everywhere. It's there to program you to work. Needlessly work. And then hate it, and go from job to job to job, which is what a lot of people do now. Because the work sucks and the amount of money that you're getting sucks. Yeah? And what you're doing isn't paying off. And then we get into a situation where we have the coronavirus. Now, it's important for us to become minimalists during this time. Stay at home. We can't spend money. We don't have money, So we have to really shorten what we got. A lot of people moved right out of their high, expensive apartments. Moved right out of New York, out of San Francisco, out of LA, out of major cities. They just left overnight, leaving those buildings empty. All in March. They didn't wait till June, July, August, because they didn't want to take a chance. They didn't want it on their credit report. You're better off running than being evicted. Yeah? You're better off. It's just the way it works. And they know that. Yeah? So an enormous amount of people left. Now, if they take that opportunity and go get someplace, go get a van, go get something that's going to help them survive at a low cost and start working on the issue of developing crafts, developing skills, learn how to do something with your mind and your hands, get your soul activated in your life, yeah? Provide a service, begin making income from that, and your income and your needs go down dramatically, yeah? And you find that you're a healthier person, you're a wiser person, you're doing things, you have time, you're camping more, you're hanging out with your kids, you're doing all the things you should have done. And everybody talks about it. Oh, yeah, don't waste your life until you're 60 and finally do what you should be doing. People make movies on that stuff. Yeah? And it's real. But the problem is that we have propaganda. We are inside of a cult. Whether or not you've drank the Kool-Aid, and part of that cult is really questionable, because you don't really have a direction. You don't know how to live life. You don't know what you're supposed to eat. You don't know the kind of house you're supposed to live in. You don't know whether or not you're supposed to be making this much money to do all these different things, which propaganda is telling you should do. You must do. Yeah? And it's not true. We'll totally survive outside that. But the problem is propaganda. The problem, yeah? Imagine you've got people out there who were born in the 70s and the late 60s, who are right now in their 50s and early 60s, and they're the people who are voting for Trump. They're dumber than a stump, Their interest in life was shut because they were born at that cycle of time. They had the Bee Gees, they had, then it was going to heavy metal, and then it was, they just shut it all off. They shut it off. They didn't go into the computer. They didn't do this and that. And if they did, they went to Twitter. They went to Facebook. All things that propaganda was leading them to do. Oh, you're an old person. You should go on Facebook. Oh, you're an old person. You should get on Twitter or Twit or whatever, Because that's what these people do. That's how we stay in touch with the family, And it's not for that reason at all. It's so that they can get programmed by people like Trump so he could use that medium as another form of programming. Yeah. And they went even bigger than that. They really went really, really big. And it was the most wealthiest people on the planet who started the programming. And they created what was known as Fox News. Fox News. One of the richest guys, one of the biggest guys in the putting together of cable, He put 25 million people set up to watch Fox News, bam, all of a sudden the same day. They didn't have to pay for it. Cable didn't have to pay for it because he owned it. He just made Fox News and then made them famous overnight. And what they were is that they're a propaganda organization for Republicans in order to establish an illusion that they are the spokesperson for humanity. So they have Washington background behind them, the flag, Washington, D.C. Every single person who talks on Fox News has a background of being at Washington. And many of the people who go out of there actually work for them. Like the one who's the secretary for Trump. She comes from Fox News. Yeah. And all these people that are out there on their own programs, on their own daily programs, putting out the same propaganda, all started on Fox News. Yeah. And now they've got their own radio program. So people who are in a car and a home and listening, they don't want to listen to truth. They want to listen to something that goes along with their fear. All the biases and prejudices of why things are bad, are all put out by Fox News. Every single thing. Yeah. I'll show you how it got started.
Then, in 1996, a media mogul named Rupert Murdoch hired Roger Ailes to head up his new project, Fox News. This selection was very intentional. Roger Ailes had been active in both TV and politics for decades, acting as an aide and advisor for both the Nixon and George H.W. Bush administrations, coaching them on everything from what ties to wear to how to spin certain policies for the media. Ailes was a talented and devoted propagandist, and a master of media manipulation, and he had big plans for injecting the Republican Party into mainstream American thought. Years after his work constructing Fox News, a 318-page trove of documents was unearthed from the bowels of the Bush and Nixon presidential libraries. This collection, simply titled A Plan for Putting the GOP on TV News, dated back to the 1970s, and detailed Ailes's plan to build a pro-GOP news operation to be run out of and partially funded by the White House. Even back then, Ailes understood the potential for TV news. He said, "People are lazy. With television, you just sit, watch, listen. The thinking is done for you." When he was brought on for Fox News, Ailes chose not to hire experienced journalists, and instead constructed a team of inexperienced partisans he could count on to read his pro-GOP scripts. Ailes himself was rabidly homophobic, racist, and completely without journalistic integrity. Together with Rupert Murdoch, he built a faux news media empire that today is the most profitable in the country, in no small part thanks to Murdoch's massive investment to pay cable providers to air their network. This was unheard of. Normally, a cable company would pay networks to license their shows. Fox News did the opposite, buying their way into 25 million homes. Ailes praised Murdoch's move, saying, "This is capitalism and one of the things that made this country great." He was right about it being a pure expression of capitalism, but I think most reasonable people would disagree that being able to dominate the airwaves simply by virtue of your extreme wealth is a good thing. This is when the right-wing propaganda machine really took off. The pro-war, anti-union, anti-regulation party now had a dedicated state media outlet. Fox News immediately set to work branding themselves and the Republican Party as the ones looking out for average Americans, railing against the coastal elites and intellectuals, dressing themselves in patriotic imagery and declaring themselves defenders of freedom in the face of creeping socialism. These weren't new talking points, but putting it on TV for 24 hours a day was a new approach, and it worked. The key was not only selling themselves as the good guys, but casting everyone who was not them as the bad guys, people who were out to steal your freedom and invade your suburban oasis.
They're not satisfied with spreading the chaos and violence into our communities. They want to abolish the suburbs altogether. This forced rezoning would bring crime, lawlessness, and low-quality apartments into now thriving suburban neighborhoods.
Fox knew their market: nervous housewives, the uneducated, and the elderly. And that's not to say that Fox News viewers are stupid. It's an indictment on a predatory propaganda network that uses fear as a motivating tactic. Fox picked out the demographics that identified as proud Americans and set to work trying to convince these people that the others were coming to destroy everything that makes our country great. In this way, patriotism, the love and support for one's country, was twisted into a defensive position instead of a passive feeling. Democrats are trying to ban Christmas, buy our American flag blankets to show them real patriots aren't afraid, and on and on. But this doesn't explain how self-proclaimed patriots become nationalists. Sure, their patriotism has become warped and reactionary, but what causes the transformation? Long story short, time and the exploitation of traumatic events. Fox News has only been around for about 24 years. A lot of people my age can remember a time when their parents seemed less scared, less xenophobic. That's not just a natural change. That comes from them living in a time before Fox News and then suddenly being bombarded with fear-mongering and right-wing propaganda 24/7 for over 2 decades. Time can do a lot to normalize things, and many older people have simply accepted Fox News as a valid alternate perspective on reality, when its explicit goal from the very beginning was to act as a propaganda outlet. But time wasn't the only culprit in turning millions of patriotic Americans into spiteful nationalists. After 9/11, Fox News ramped up its pro-America, anti-foreigner rhetoric, feeding on the fear and uncertainty of this new era. Suddenly, all brown people were suspected terrorists, and of course we had to invade Iraq to bring them freedom and democracy. Even after it became common knowledge that we had started a war under false pretenses, Fox News and the new wave of conservative radio talk shows kept feeding their audience bad information, smearing the Middle East as a primitive hellhole, Europe as do-nothing socialists, and South America as full of failed states. The United States was the last bastion of truth and freedom in the world. Of course, these propagandists, including other news networks, left out some key details, like the fact that the US had destabilized the Middle East for generations, killed innocent civilians, including school children and people at a wedding, and captured and illegally tortured people in secret prisons. And that's just in the Middle East. American media will never report on the dozens of coups we've orchestrated in Latin America, overthrowing democratically elected governments and installing dictators like Pinochet. Fox may be the most obvious example, but news networks from CNN to ABC to CBS all play a critical role in maintaining the myth that America is the greatest, freest nation on earth. Since 2001, there has been a huge shift away from passive patriotism to active nationalism. But where news networks excel in putting out a polished, seemingly factual message, they lack one critical thing: the personal connection. Some talking heads get pretty close. Tucker Carlson has the "I'm just like you" act down to a science, despite the fact that he makes $6 million a year to parrot GOP talking points. Most news networks are big productions. Lots of people, flashy graphics, very visual driven, and they can't travel with you on your commute. Talk radio hosts can. Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, Bill O'Reilly, Mark Levin, Newt Gingrich, all one-time Fox personalities who, for whatever reason, whether sexual assault or becoming too radical even for Fox News, have had to leave and start their own one-man shows on streaming radio, can go wherever you go. They can talk to you in your car on the way to work, or to get groceries, or to pick up little Tinsley from ballet. It's just you and them, one-on-one. No chyrons, no breaking news alerts, no boring weather updates. Just you, the host, and pure, uninterrupted ideology. When you consume content around other people, it's just entertainment or background noise. But when you're alone with the host, it becomes almost like a friendship. You feel like you know the person, like they're a trusted advisor. The more you listen, the more their ideology melds with your own. When there are no voices of dissent or alternate opinions, you begin to accept everything they say as fact. And that is very damaging. For older people, this is the equivalent of the YouTube fascism pipeline. On YouTube, a young person will watch a video by Joe Rogan, then will get recommended one by Steven Crowder, then Ben Shapiro, and then suddenly their homepage is full of the most baseless, toxic far-right content imaginable. For older people, it was watching news in the evening, then Fox News debuted and caught their attention, then the network got more radical and added extremist primetime hosts, then some of those hosts broke with the network and started their own shows, and now that extreme content is available whenever they need their fix of fear and anger. This is where we start to see the metamorphosis from nationalist to fascist. Traditional media gives you the shot, fear of other countries, followed by the chaser, American exceptionalist nonsense. Talk show hosts take it one step further and make you hate the people you fear. Muslims, black people, gay people, cultural Marxists or elites, which is often code for Jews. Antifa, immigrants. These subgroups are not only bad, they're actively working to dismantle America and steal your freedom. They'll often use tactics such as one I like to call Schrodinger's immigrant, where immigrants are simultaneously cast as both lazy welfare recipients and hyper-productive job stealers, or Antifa are described as both whiny snowflakes and terrorist super soldiers. This doublespeak is present in all instances of fascism throughout history. You have to make your people hate the enemy for their perceived moral failings, but also fear them. But while talk shows are an integral part in the patriotism to fascism pipeline, they're still missing the final piece of the puzzle. And that's a figurehead that functions as a cult of personality. I'm going to say a couple of things that some of you might disagree with. First, every president in modern history has wielded fascist power abroad. Trump is not the first one to do it. Second, I don't think that Trump has always had fascist tendencies. He's very thin-skinned and seems to have exceptionally malleable opinions. He's been molded by his base just as he has whipped them into a nationalist frenzy. They feed on each other in a vicious, ever-worsening feedback loop, to the point where now, the same people who fly "Don't Tread on Me" flags are calling for the police to conduct mass arrests on peaceful protesters and political dissidents. They're supposedly against authoritarianism, but they're calling for the government to use authoritarian measures to achieve their xenophobic goals. They celebrate the police using excessive force, completely oblivious to the fact that what they're applauding is in direct conflict with what they claim to oppose: oppressive government. When people move from loving America over all others, to hating all others because they're not America, to wanting to remove anything that doesn't comply with their warped sense of what America represents, they've moved from patriotism to nationalism all the way to fascism, and they may not have even noticed it happening. So, how do you spot a fascist? They typically hold inconsistent views about violence and government overreach. They're vocal about the groups they hate and fear. They want a white ethno-state. They support Donald Trump to the point where they applaud his suggestion of getting a third term. And they do things like this.
Freedom! Fuck Bellagio! Take the mask off!
Only in America could someone be so misguided that they think dressing up as the Statue of Liberty, a beacon of welcome to all people, and wearing a Make America Great Again mask while vandalizing a call for justice and equality is what it truly means to be great. It's hard to know how far along your loved ones are on this spectrum, and it's even harder to watch people you love turn into hateful shadows of their former selves. But a conversation could go a long way towards derailing that process. There are ways to tell if someone you care about has fallen into this pipeline. If they consume content that makes them feel attacked or marginalized by a different ethnic group, sexual orientation, or other immutable characteristics of other people, if those voices are calling for war or for the jailing of citizens for holding dissenting opinions, if those networks or personalities sell shady products like brain pills or useless powders, it's probably time to say something. There's no guarantee you can drag your loved ones back from this toxic whirlpool of propaganda and fear-mongering, but it's worth a shot. Every time fascism has arisen around the world, the people later reported thinking, it can't happen here. But it can happen. And it is. As I expect.
There. Yeah. Okay, great. So fascism is imagine it's where you do have what you think is kind of a democracy. You think you have a ruling class where people can elect someone and you can bring changes in the government. But when a dictator comes into the office and is in the office because the place in which they came from, whether in America, that happened to be the Republican Party, the place in which that person came from happens to have a lot of propaganda built up in it, which makes it real possible for a dictator to enter into that particular group and not be recognized as a dictator, but more as a nationalist, say, I want to make America great. Yeah. So if they say, I want to make America great, then that means America's great. Yeah. And that's what it's all about, to be a nationalist. Yeah. And that's what it's all about, to wave that flag, and be a person who represents your country. Yeah. So they're just forcing those particular things on people. Yeah. But when it gets to the point to where they're going to be elected and you find out that they're making changes that are totally off the wall by that person because they're a dictator. Yeah. And as the election does possibly come up, you find out that that dictator wants to change the rules. Yeah. And we've seen that in Russia, and we've seen it in China, where both the dictators change the rules to where they won't be taken out of office for a very long time. Yeah. So our particular president he's reacting to the reality of an election. And one of the problems of a dictator in a fascist regime is that if an election takes place, they do everything in order to make that election spin the other way. Yeah. So they either do a coup, or they buy all the votes, and they make it, as though they are the real ones, and they go into the political process and they force those political agents to say, oh, the people's vote doesn't matter. It's all going to be done by the Senate or by politicians, and which is exactly what Trump is doing right now. So in your education, God's doing this for you to help you better understand the situation at hand is a very dire situation. Very, very dire situation. We're talking about fascism. We have a dictator who wants to be a fascist dictator, and he wants to... here we are in democracy land. Yeah. If that happens, we lose our entire economical foundation. First thing that goes is your entire economical foundation, because in a fascist world, they're so self-centered that they'll have no trust toward all other nations. Any economical connection, any agreement that may happen, any of that. A dictator, a fascist dictator, they want to literally force the other countries to work for them and provide them their needs. Yeah, and you could see that in Trump. He goes, well, I'm not going to do this for you, and you're going to pay us a whole lot of money. You owe debt. I'm here as a bill collector. He does that to Germany. He does that to Canada. He goes to China. He goes to Russia. He does nothing in Russia because he wants to. He's already got a deal going on there. But in China, he's doing everything he possibly can to get the deals to move his way. So everything has to do with his fascist ideology. Yeah. And he really loves other dictators who are made it past the having to be a fascist, because already their system has been controlled by other dictators, whether it be North Korea or Russia or China. So his process and our process is to learn from this. We need to learn from this. And in order to become a dictator, in order to be a fascist person, you have an enormous amount of impurities. But you can't go into China and find out the personal public life of a dictator. You really can't find it, because it's so secretive. You get all the lies. You get propaganda 100%. Yeah. But you'll get no information. No person will squeal on the dictator and tell any truths. Yeah. Because they know their head's going to be cut off. They know their family will be destroyed. They know everything will be destroyed. It's a hostile situation if you go against that dictator in any way and you try and find out personal things. So here we got Trump. Yeah. This guy won't tell us anything. He won't show us his taxes. He's raped many a woman, and he has been sued by those women way before he ever went up for election. But yet, because of the propaganda, and here we are in a nationalist country, and this guy, he's rich, and being that we're capitalist, we're programmed into this cult. Capitalism cult. Yeah? You can see it everywhere. People are in a capitalist cult. Yeah, and they're stuck in coal mines, and they're stuck in poverty. They're stuck, and no one's going to help you. Because we're in a capitalist world, and in a capitalist world, no one's going to help you. Nobody. Yeah. You go to the hospital now. You got insurance? No. Okay. Well, why don't you wait over there? We'll see if we can do something. We'll get a lot of forms together and, maybe get you in, probably transfer you to some other place. Somebody who says, I'll accept this person who doesn't have money. You get treated really horribly if you don't fulfill all the things of the system. Your insurance, your whether or not you have credit cards, whether or not you have credit, whether or not you pay credit, all your bills up. Are you paid off in all your bills? Every single thing in capitalism puts us in an illusion that we shouldn't be in this condition. As though this isn't the condition we should be in. So then we go, well, God, why can't you get me out of this? Why can't you give me a raise? There's really no hope for me to get outside of McDonald's and get a better job. I am living with 2 other people I don't even know, so that I can have an apartment and not live on the street. And I work full time. And I'm 43 years old. And I went through college. This is a lot of people in America doing this. Because they're in a capitalist world. So what do we need? Yeah? We need unions. We need unions. Yeah? We need people to stand up for people. Yeah? We need lobbyists to be kicked out of Washington. Yeah? No lobbying whatsoever. There's no reason for lobbying other than capitalism. Yeah? The people who lobby are there not to help anybody. Yeah? You can lobby for schools, but you won't be lobbying for better pay for teachers. Yeah? You'll be lobbying in order to make sure the teachers don't get paid and that they get more responsibility. And their schools don't get fixed up, and they don't get new schools, and they don't get new tools, new advanced situations as the years go by. Every 3 or 4 years, the whole class has to change dramatically. Yeah? You have to go buy old books. You have to go buy all this crap, all broken stuff, bad desks, no air conditioning. Yeah? Let alone the teachers pissed off and tired. Yeah? And stressed out and paid so little. And that is what is going to be for you after you graduate. This is I'm looking up to this person, my teacher. And that person is in poverty. But they're not going to teach you that stuff. Yeah? They're going to teach you nationalism. Yeah? They're not going to teach you to stand up for your human rights and make sure that you go for labor. Yeah? And you get rights for labor. And you get people paid $20, $22, whatever the cost of living is. You have to raise the price of living to wages. Yeah? And then you have to do everything you have to do in order to lower the price of housing. Yeah? Get rid of old houses and build low-income houses, yeah, that don't have 20 bedrooms, yeah. Don't let millionaires build mansions, yeah. It's not a socialist thing. It's a common sense, non-capitalistic thing, yeah, that allows us, like if Amazon had a labor situation to where people had a union in there, and if Elon Musk, who is the biggest capitalist you'll ever meet, he's so against paying people, he's so against putting people in right relationship to what they're giving. He just isn't there for that. He's there for getting on the moon and being one known for getting there. He's there for being the third richest man in the world. He's there for all those things, but he's not for the people who work for him, And we have to learn to do that, because if we take this psychological bullshit propaganda of capitalism and our best of our best go to that consciousness, we're not growing out of it. We're going to carry on more problems down the road. We got to fix them. So we have to push these big companies into unions. So they are the ones that raise the pay wage, and that forces everybody else. All of McDonald's gets a union. Yeah? Every fast food gets a union. Yeah? And it doesn't raise the cost of the hamburger. It doesn't raise the cost of the car. That's bullshit. The people owning McDonald's is making a fortune. They're making a fortune. Elon Musk is making $1 gazillion. And his head people are making great big checks. Yeah? It's not like, you start paying these people, it's going to cost us more. You're just going to make less, and you're going to share it properly. And that's how it has to be done. Because if you don't, we'll live in a world of capitalism which opens us up to cults. Every level of cult you can ever imagine is found in the area of capitalism. Because capitalism is a lie. It's an illusion. It's a delusion. It's a part of a cult. But it's such a big, widespread thing, that it leads us in our being already in a cult. It leads us into the avenue of so many other cults. Cult leaders, cult teachers, cult TV, soap operas. How many people watch soap operas? That's a freaking cult. And yet all these housewives, bazillions of them, would sit back and watch soap operas. Husband would come home and they'd almost get divorced because of what happened on the soap opera is very close to what's going on with her husband. And yet it's not, But they can't, because it's a soap opera, and brainwashing, person gets emotionally in it, and they actually think these people are real in a real world, in a real crisis, and it's a good chance the real world's just like that. So that leads you to distrust. It leads you to manipulation. It leads you to the lying that goes on inside the soap opera can also go on at your house and with your friends, And it's not like normal. You're just expressing what you're seeing, based on fear. And it's all, just the process of brainwashing. So there's a lot when it comes down to what it is humanity is trying to get rid of. And poverty is the biggest thing. The situation where, we're under an illusion and we think, oh, there's a middle class. Okay, so we name something called the middle class. Oh, there's an upper class. So we name something that's called the upper class. Oh, there's a rich. Well, we name something called the rich, And it's an illusion. It's a lie. It's just a place for you to be standing in such a place that you can look down thinking that you're looking down at the class below you. But no one's in any different situation. It's all a lie. It's all illusion. It's all corruption. It's all manipulation. And it all feeds your emotional body. So one class feeds you to be in that class because you think you're going to go from that class to this class. It feeds you to think you're going to do this sort of thing. And it doesn't work that way. This class is looking down on you, pushing you down, holding you down, utilizing your lack of ability to make economy happen in your life. You know? And this one, in order to continue their upward spiral, they have to continue manipulating you and not pay you and lie to you. Yeah? And walk away and go bankrupt on you. And they keep going up. You know, and you're there in this fantasy thinking this is all going to work out. Because there's this thing that allows me to go up from lower class to middle class to upper class. And there is no such a thing. Yeah? You know, so the whole process for us to deal with this is that we have to come to some form of truth. Yeah? It has to open our heart, because everything else is because we're in our solar plex and we're using our lower mind and we're not seeing the truth. Yeah. So imagine you go to a restaurant. How is your empathy? Yeah. You're in reality now. You're in a restaurant, you know, and you're going to order something, whether it be, you know, a burger or fries or whatever. It's going to cost you, say, $30. Yeah. And at the end, you're going to leave, you know. Are you going to give a 20% tip to this person? You know, $30. Are you going to give more than that? Yeah. Because you actually know we're in a capitalistic world, and this is the lowest paid person you're going to meet today. The person who served you. Yeah? And they're all like smiling, trying to talk to you, trying to listen to you, trying to do the right thing and serve you. Because they honestly believe that you are going to do the right thing. You're going to do that because you understand that they are making only $2.50 an hour. And everything depends on this, you know. So if you understand this, and it doesn't take much to understand this, you know. Every single human being in the United States should be aware of the struggle that other people are going through. And we should behave accordingly. When you see a person and you're driving up to a stop sign, and you see a person stand there with a sign, and they say, I need money. Don't go in your head and go, yeah, and you're going to go and get into an SUV and drive off to your 3-bedroom house. You know, and making your $800 a day off of loose change, you know, and stuff like that. That's just bullshit. That's bullshit. That's ridiculous. You know, this is an incredibly humbling scenario for that person. It's a horrifying day. This may be a good sunny day, but the next day could be rainy or snow, just plain hell. And every day is going to be like that until they die, which is probably not that long. Yeah? And yet in our empathy, you know, most people I see drive by. You see the opportunity. I mean, who hasn't got 50 cents? Who hasn't got $1? How hard it is to roll your window down and ask that person to take this money. You know, you're in an opportunity state, you know, but yet this capitalistic bullshit comes into you. And you just turn your head away and drive on around the corner and leave that person sitting there. Or you go into the restaurant and you order $35 worth of food. And you leave the person, you know, like $5, $3, you know. And this is not uncommon. I know most of you people, you know. When I go in, I don't care what it is I'm buying, you know. I go in, I know exactly what's going on. And I always leave 3 times what I bought. 3 times what I bought. If I bought $100, I left $300. Yeah? And it just shaked them up. They couldn't believe it. Shock almighty. Yeah? Because that never happens. Ever happens. But it should happen. These people are making $2 an hour. If you've got it, you should give it, knowing that everybody else is only going to give 5 to 10%. And they should be giving 20. You know, $50, you know, 20%, $50, 10%, $50. You know, that's only $5. Yeah. But when you're thinking, you know, you go, I don't know, and I really want to put down $10 for only a $50 meal? Yeah. It really pushes a person. It's the same thing in all of our capitalistic bullshit. We don't share and care. And we should care and share more than what we're being asked to. And it's not when they say you should be giving 20%, there is great deal of reasoning behind that. They're not making any money. The asshole of the restaurant has decided that it's a legal thing for them to give only $2.50 an hour for a waiter or a waitress. And you got to live off your tips. And you got to give 5% of that back to the restaurant. This is all capitalism. Yeah. And in the process of capitalism, we have the ability, in our democracy, we have the ability by going into minimalism, and utilizing the ability to care and share. If you can't afford to give a good tip when you go out to eat, don't go out to eat. Don't go out and have someone cook your meal for you and serve you and then wash those dishes and clean it up and carry on, that business structure, which is quite a service. Making a meal, cleaning up, all that restaurant stuff is quite a service, and it should be an event when you go to a restaurant. Now you go to fast foods, there is no tipping whatsoever. No tipping. Yeah, you can't give a dime. Yeah, and they're doing good to get $7.50 to $9.50 an hour. And that's nothing. So all of these services, have to dramatically change. We have to not allow ourselves to be told by the lie in capitalism that if we pay the employees more money, the product that you wish to get will cost you a lot more. And it's not true. No, the profit the owner wishes to get will be less. But you should still get the same quality of product at the same price, having nothing to do with the employee. Because the markup is dramatic. It's way beyond, an employee's, $10 an hour, $15 an hour wages. The outcome of what they're selling it for is always dramatically higher. Yeah. So you can't go that way, Yeah, you can't. Yeah. And it moves us that way because we're watching and listening to the wrong things. Yeah. If you watch the news, if you talk to people and gossip, and you go through this process and you're not really getting the truth, finding out what are the real wages out there and what are people really going through, and you minimalize yourself to where you're not stuck in that process. Yeah. Because a lot of people would be better off not being waiters, not being in that industry, and not thinking that this is, because it's just a carrot on a stick. The whole thing. It just super sucks, So if these people had independent little scenarios and they were just to whip it up and sell it out and, a little cart or something like that and make their own business, that's an entrepreneur attitude. When you're an entrepreneur, when you're a person who's doing your own business, that's when your soul comes into play. Yeah. But when you're working for someone else, you're weak. Yeah. And you're playing the weak card. And capitalism is pulling you down on that. Yeah. And anything you could do for someone else, you could do for yourself and be paid for it the same way you're getting paid for it for doing it for someone else, and you're not getting paid for it. Yeah. Someone's getting paid. You're not. Yeah. So just take the same skills and get your head out of your ass. Yeah. Yeah, because this negative thing pushes humanity into a process where they're like an ostrich sticking their head in the ground. And they don't see the problem. And because they're listening to bullshit and lies, the propaganda that comes from the news, the propaganda that comes from movies, from music industry, from all kinds of things. Yeah, it just leads us into deadening our ability to understand these things, because it leads us into a more capitalistic life, where we should be going minimalistic, dramatically minimalistic, and cutting out an enormous amount of financial needs. Yeah. And be able to do things, at your rate of what you spend money on and what you can produce to make money should be much higher than your spending. Yeah? You're producing. Yeah? All you got to do is get moving in that direction. Yeah? And after a while, it begins to roll over to the other side. You're making more than what you need. And you minimalized everything, and it's just the way God works. God works in a harmonic reality of bringing people into right relationship in life. Yeah? But these isms, these processes of us thinking that it's okay, to not share and care. When you drive along and someone's standing there with a sign, you do nothing about it. Your opportunity just passed you by. You have no idea what a little act of kindness does in the world. You may be, saving a child or saving a nation in an act of kindness, where we're spending all of our time not being kind. And look at the world. It all adds up. Yeah. So capitalism is all about not being kind, and being ripped off and being put in a position as though we're thankful for the opportunity to work 12 hours out of a day. Oh, I'm so lucky I got 3 jobs, and I work so hard, This is all going to end up in the end, I'm going to have, a career, and I'm going to get ahead, and all this kind of stuff. All this delusionary stuff, keeps piling up in people, and you watch the news or you watch a movie or you listen to what Elon Musk says, and you think this is how you become what that man is. And it isn't. People are put in the positions they're in because there's a play of God going on. Yeah? And we need to help people get out of capitalism and step into minimalism so we can experience democracy. Yeah? Because true democracy is a place where our consciousness is at such a level to where we understand the need to help people who run businesses run those businesses. Yeah? If you let a monopoly or a company be the only controlling agency behind that reality, and there wasn't a conscience behind it, there wasn't a value system behind it or anything, that a law that governs how it's going to work. If you had a restaurant and you didn't have someone go in to make sure that it's clean, make sure that they have 3 sinks, to wash and rinse and clean, all these things, and make sure that they know the protocol of behavior and how it works. If we didn't have things like that set up, and we get that from our history. We get that from sharing what we've learned from what causes disease or what causes a lack of hygiene causes this problem. Yeah. And we shouldn't run a business that's causing unhealthy effect on people who work there. Yeah. We learn all that as time goes on. Yeah. So as we apply that, and we do that with rules and regulations, and that's the right side of democracy. Yeah. Democracy understands through compassion and empathy where changes need to be made, and you support people to make changes outside of their corrupt nature. Yeah, so that maybe they would clean their kitchen more often. And okay, they won't pay anybody, then let's get labor unions in there. Yeah, and let people have the rule over the situation, and then they can actually become maybe one day a profit sharing like scenario, to where everybody works as hard as they want to work and they get paid for what it is they're putting into it. A natural profit sharing situation. And the corporation could be ran as a group, as a collective group, rather than as an individual. But that's, in people's minds, that's too close to socialism. But when we grow, it's democracy. We find that what real democracy really is. But we have to enter into minimalism. We have to enter into cutting up credit cards. We have to enter into having small loans, if no loans. Yeah. We have to enter into actually learning how to collect money and not spend the money, but collect it, and then how to control how that spending goes out, and how to lower our cost of living down to a smaller house, to a car that we can afford, to living in the right position, rather than 100 miles from my place of employment. I need to move really close or change my employment. Yeah. Because every single thing has to do with our democracy. And you have a free choice in democracy. And that's the outcome, is freedom, happiness, justice for all. All these things will come about if we use our will to not allow other people to go through the suffering. We can't allow the process of, there being a $7 an hour wage, or even a $9 an hour wage, or even a $10 an hour wage. We have to come to a consciousness to where we realize what real reality is about. Yeah, and we do that through minimalism. Yeah, not by capitalism, but by minimalism. Yeah, and it's a harder thing to do because we don't know the growth process behind minimalism. We're taught that we need to gain a lot of money and we need to mature in that money, and our equity comes from a big house and all these things in a capitalistic mindset. Yeah, and it's not true. True happiness comes from having enough time to enjoy your life. Yeah, and doing the things you want to do in life and not the things you're obligated to do. Yeah, having to get up every morning, go to a certain job, and continue that on until you retire. Yeah, that's capitalism. Yeah, working in a coal mine is capitalism. We don't have a way out of this shit unless we decide this is not right. Yeah, and to do that, if we go minimalistic and we decide not to eat in restaurants, we decide not to read bullshit books. We decide not to watch bullshit news. Yeah, we decide to look at it on YouTube and see what they're saying, but see it in the truth of how it's being said. So it's a learning process rather than, oh, I believe that for sure. You have to have a wide open scope of the information that you're getting, because your soul will direct you as an interest for your own growth. Yeah. But if you have only 5 or 6 services of news and 10 or 20 services of TV channels, CBS, ABC, NBC, and all these different bullshit TV shows that come on, from soap operas to, you name it, all crap, all bubblegum. Nothing makes anybody happy. Yeah. Just bullshit. Yeah. Yeah. If we collectively decide to not read and not focus on things that lead us astray into fear or conspiracy or any of those things, but relax completely off of it and spend our time looking at a butterfly, spend our time quitting our job, and spend the next 2 weeks figuring out what the heck we're going to do with our life, and focus on getting a smaller reality down out of the bigger reality of what we expected and what we thought. All these things, as we start to let those things go, we're emanating out into society. Because right now there's an enormous amount of pressure being put on the solar plexus by a cult. We nearly lost a presidency from that solar plex, from that delusion based on fear. QAnon, conspiracies, all of it based on that. And they're all saying, we don't want, a dictatorship. We don't want, and they're saying this about Democrats, about Biden, and yet the people that are doing all this, even the people who are stopping the vote, even the people who are trying to change the vote, and they're the ones saying they're doing it. They're trying to change the vote. They're stopping the vote. They're corrupting the ballots. They're corrupting the people. And yet none of that is in truth happening on the other side. And it's all happening on the side of the ones that are saying it. But because it's propaganda, you don't hear it in that way. People who are in the cult don't hear it in that way. They hear it as an affirmation. Yeah? Because all it is just talk. A lot of talk, propaganda talk, brainwashing talk, affirmation talk. And that's your solar plex. Yeah, it's lower mind, lower interest, based on fear. I told you so, kind of things. When you think you're going to win a bet, or you think all these things on a fake identity of reality, like gambling and drinking and doing drugs for long periods of time. When you think you're going to end up enlightened, or you think you're going to make it through being an alcoholic and it's not going to affect you, or you think, all these different things that you do in your life, and your brain is telling you, nah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's not true. And those are all brainwashings. Yeah? The mind does that to you all the time. And they use this programming process to use those weak aspects of our brain to get to us, so that we'll follow suit in a reality of a conspiracy. Turn a conspiracy that doesn't exist into an existing conspiracy, as though they're changing the software on computers for voting, or they're doing all this weird stuff in voting. They're saying it, they're making things about it, but it actually is just making a conspiracy out of thin air, out of nothing. Yeah, but because it's being said on an astral level, it's as real can get. Yeah. So people, they take it as reality. Yeah. And they take it as though you are possessed and you can't see it, because it's such a solar plex thing. It's such a lower psychic emotional thing that they believe it's absolute. Like, if you ever met anybody who's really religiously dogmatic, they'll get right in your face and they won't stop saving you, until finally you agree, okay, shit, Jesus, yes, take me, I'm yours, would you leave me alone, yeah, and there's nothing in that one, but when it comes down to this sixth ray, that's everything. That's what those people do. They get right in your face and they force people into an action, an emotional reaction to an action. Yeah. So it's an enormous amount of energy before we get to democracy. Yeah. Democracy is an outcome. It's not something, where we're sitting now, we're going, oh yeah, we're a democratic country. This is what we are. It's not real. It is a focus of where we're going, but it's not something that we've achieved. Yeah. What we've achieved is fascism. And we elected a fascist. Yeah. And we are very close to very bad times that comes from this fascist. If he doesn't go to jail, he will create a great big fascist organization. He'll have his own news company. He'll get on the radio all the time, talking all the time. He'll have people out there representing him, saying, getting ready for 4 more years, we're coming back, da, da, da. This whole thing will go on unless he goes to jail. And there's no reason why this man wouldn't go to jail. Yeah? Imagine he's a rapist. Yeah? Not just any good old rapist, the kind that just rapes women because they're drunk or they're angry and they're hostile and do the things that they do as a really bad guy, Well, what about if it's because the kid looks like your daughter, and you can't hold back and you really have this extreme desire to have sex with your daughter, so you're going to go to a guy who gets kids, brings them in, puts them makeup on, clothing on, yeah, puts their hair on, and has them play act for rich men so that they can have sex with little girls who they are the desire in their mind. Whether it be some kid or some actress on TV, some desire body of relationship to have sex with a child. And it's his case, Trump's case. It's his child Ivanka. Yeah. He wants sex with her bad. So he hires this girl, a 13-year-old girl, and goes through a rape scene with her.
An anonymous woman filed a federal lawsuit against Donald Trump, claiming he raped her in 1994 when she was just 13 years old. The suit claims the presumptive Republican presidential nominee and his friend, Jeffrey Epstein, the billionaire investor and convicted sex offender, lured several young women to a party at Epstein's Upper East Side mansion, promising them cash and help advancing their modeling careers. The woman alleges Trump tied her to a bed, raped her, and threatened to kill her family if she told anyone. The statute of limitations on rape in New York is 5 years, but her suit argues that it should be waived because she was denied her freedom of will to speak. She reportedly filed the lawsuit in California in April, but it was dismissed because of improper paperwork. At the time, Trump completely denied the allegations. For view.
Okay, this is the little girl, 13 years old. This is her right here. Yeah? And this is her statement to the police.
Life changes because of that, then so be it. But the American people need to know what they're dealing with. If I had the chance to talk to Donald Trump, I would run the other way. I'm scared of him like I've never been scared of anything else in my entire life. I can't explain it to you, but the fear of him even being in a next room, I have a panic attack. The last encounter that I had with Donald Trump, Tiffany approached me about a rape scene that was supposed to be played out, and I didn't like the sound of that at all. But Tiffany promised, assured me that it wasn't going to be, if it was anything I wasn't comfortable with, we could stop. That she would be right there, and that it wouldn't get out of hand, and that it was a fantasy, like it wasn't really going to happen. And so I told her that I would. She basically, Tiffany was always nice to me. It wasn't that I trusted her, else and I wouldn't always trusted her or done what she asked me to. But she was there, and he came in, and I was basically tied to a bed with pantyhose, and he tied him. They were so tight it hurt to even lay there. And I tried to say something, and it was like, he just, shut up, shut up, bitch. It was basically like he was being really, really rough. And I understand. It just didn't seem like a fantasy. And I started to get scared, and he was, basically ripping my clothes off, and I was actually I got freaked out. I told him that I didn't want to do this. I was, so I screamed over for Tiffany. She was like, Mr. Trump, she's only, this is scaring her. And he's like, oh, you shut up too. He just turned into this animal. It was like a completely different person. It was like everyone in the room was scared of him, and I was. It was like I couldn't do anything about it, and he ripped off all my clothes, and he started to basically have sex with me, and I was screaming because I'd never had sex before. It was my first time, and Tiffany was yelling at him too. She was saying that I was a virgin, and he told us to just shut the fuck up, and just basically took my virginity while I was crying and telling him to stop. And that's basically begging for him to just stop. And Tiffany didn't know what else to do either. No one was there to help us, or me. And so after the fact, he basically finishes it. It didn't take that long at all. But it was just, it felt like it was like 5.5 hours. It felt like it was an eternity. Like, I don't even know how long it was, but he was done, and I was crying, and Tiffany was consulting me, and she was, apologizing. She told me that she would never, she just never put me in that situation again. But he comes over mad because I was crying, and he said that I should be thankful that someone like Donald Trump took my virginity. He basically didn't say took my virginity. He said, I should be glad that someone like Donald Trump popped my cherry and not some pimply little 14-year-old. And I just was like, what if I said, what if I get pregnant? Not even talking to him. I didn't want to talk to him. I was talking to Tiffany. And he said, well, you'll get an abortion then, bitch, and then just walked away. And I asked, I told Tiffany I needed to go home. I never went back again.
Yeah. So I understand, cults. I understand people, evangelists saying this man is me, the reincarnation of Jesus Christ. I understand they got away with that. And I understand that he believes that. But the truth is, he's not that. He's a devil, an evil person, very evil. Was that way before he became president. Now he became president. And everybody became members of his cult. And that cult has been going on a very long time. I mean, he's been raping kids and scaring them and keeping them from putting them in prison. That requires a cult. Cult leader has power over people, and they don't go against the cult leader because they think he's superior, a little low. Yeah, so this is a big cult process, and you could see half the United States voted for this pedophile, even though they all knew that he had raped this little girl and that she wasn't going to go to court because she was afraid he was going to kill her and her family. She is scared, really scared. Listen to this.
Said that I would do. And as far as Donald Trump, he knew that I was 13, and I believe that Tiffany told him he seemed to take a liking to me because I was I was so young, and I was also a virgin. So I don't know. It seemed like he wasn't really into having girls that were liked by the other guys. He kind of, the whole glove. He kind of liked things to be his first. If that, for lack of a better term, but he was the one who wanted to get to a girl before everyone else did. Donald Trump knew that I was 13 because the first night that I was there, Tiffany actually suggested that she had a whole bunch of different wigs, and I expressed interest in them. I always told her that I would love to walk around with blue hair, and so I tried some on, and there was a blonde wig that she said that looked great on me. So I wore that wig, and Donald Trump had specifically asked about me because I remind him of his daughter, and she said, well, she's 13 as well. So he knew the first time that he saw me, but he took a liking to me because I look like his daughter.
Yep, that's your president. That's the guy who will not leave office, Why won't he leave office? It's not 100% over the fact that he is a dictator who's crazy and won't leave office because that's just his nature. He's a man who's corrupt, who's broken the law in every area of humanity, from tax evasion to corruption to, false relationships to schools, and, building buildings and then having them go bankrupt and leaving millions behind in people, who put their life and their money into helping to support his buildings, And then he's raped women, not just women, but he's raped children, not just one child, but a lot of children, not just girls, boys too, You know, I really think, you know, you're all involved in a cult, you know, and whatever cult leader you are involved with, that's your problem, you know. And until all this false prophet bullshit is fended off, and I'm going to do my best to help, because you only got one Lord. You only have one teacher. You only have one Savior. But all these people are Antichrist. They're false prophets. Yeah, they're come to destroy you, to harm you in every way. Yeah, not one of them has done good. Not one, not Jim Jones, not one. Yeah, and this guy, he takes the cake. Michael Jackson was really bad too, but it was his best friend. You know, what about his other best friend? You know, he killed himself because he was a pedophile and he was in prison. He was going to be caught. Yeah. And his girlfriend, who was his assistant at the time, her closest friend is our First Lady. And yet she acts as though she doesn't know her. But I can show you over 30 pictures of them hanging out on boats, in cars, at parties, standing together, hugging each other. And guess who's in charge? Melania. Melania. She has no dark makeup on. She actually wears hardly any makeup. She completely changed herself to not be the person that everybody knows, you know, as a corrupt mistress. You could see one picture after another of her in nude, you know, completely spread out on a piano, you know, spread out in what might look like the White House, you know, for her hubby, while he stands there in a suit, the capitalist pig, with his harlot. Yeah. And for who she is and who he is, yeah, and who it is, the group that's getting busted and the lady that's in prison, and these are a team. Melania is not a sidekick. Yeah? She plays a big part in the process of perversion and human trafficking and the suffering of humanity. She's been in that house. She knows the workings of things that go on. She hung out with those people. They were best of friends. What do you think they talked about? Golf? You know, flying in their Learjets? Yeah. Yeah. The process of the corruption that was going on at that time is all a part of what it is he's going to be walking back into, his wife and his children. They have an enormous amount of illegal scenarios coming in that comes from democracy, people. And if it wasn't for democracy, we would not put them in jail. Because democracy is justice. But this is not justice. We're in a world situation to where we are in a cult that keeps us from justice. It tells us lies and untruths and corrupt stories, yeah? As though Melania has nothing to do with it. As though she has no sexual perverted quality whatsoever like her husband. As though she doesn't. All you got to do is look online. Look for Melania in the nude. Yeah? And these are not Photoshop pictures. They are the common Melania presentation of her perversion and how she presents herself in that way with her husband in social situations. People know her as a harlot. Yeah? And they know him as the evil devil that he is. Yeah? He's the guy that does this. I just start kissing them. And then I don't wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. You can grab them by the you can do anything. Yeah? And he did. And every one of those acts, every one of those malicious acts, is a form of rape. Even kissing them without them wanting it. Groping them without them wanting it. Grabbing their vagina without them wanting it is a form of rape. This is a daily attitude in this man. A daily attitude. Yeah? He's a predator. He's a predator. Yeah? And all of you are what he is after. Yeah? He's like a tiger or a lion or a demon or a devil. Yeah? Who wants to take your soul. He wants you to throw Biden to the wolves because he's a Christian. Because he wears a mask. Because he's a good man. Because everybody loves him. Because everybody voted for him. And he wants you to turn against your soul. Yeah? Just because half of this America is led in this cult, and they are in hate. They hate everybody who didn't vote for Trump. Hate you badly. Even if it's your mother or their aunt or their cousin, just like the Civil War. They will hate you because you didn't vote for Trump. Yeah? I'll never speak to you again, Mom. I'll never speak to my daughter again. I completely disown her for voting for Biden. Now she's just a little communist, a little socialist. I hate her. And it's just everything that the programming puts in them goes off toward their loved ones, people that they should be caring for, but they can't because they've been put into this conspiracy, this cult. Now, the other half of the whole United States, it needs to be beaten up and not tolerated and forced to realize that Trump's the real president. Yeah? Unless we do the right thing. The only way we can cleanse this thing, clear this thing, is through the honest truth. And bring in this false Messiah. Yeah? This biased human being that does so much harm to everybody. Take him to court. Yeah? And let the courts walk it through everything, through taxes, gazillions of dollars. He can't even go back to New York because that's where he's going to go to jail. Yeah? If he goes to New York, he can't leave New York. They won't let him. There are people he raped there. There are people who he has stolen money from there. There's processes of enormous tax evasion there. There's the German bank. Everything he wants to not be involved with is stuck in New York. And that's just a small portion of the door that he's going to be opening the moment he is out of office. Because while he's in office, he has certain legal statutes that keeps us from being able to subject this guy to the court system. But the moment he's out, he has not one of them that he can depend on. Yeah. And it's up to us. It's up to humanity to do our best, to see the outcome of circumstances that come and stand up for these kids. Stand up for these adults. Stand up for these people that have been raped, people that have been ripped off, people who, through their bankruptcy, his bankruptcy, has ruined people's lives. You know, tens of thousands of people. Yeah? If we can turn the tide on that, have him pay him back. Have him pay him back. Take all of his money, liquidate it. All of his places, liquidate them. Pay these people back. Yeah? All the boys and girls who he raped, give them lives. And then put this man in prison for the rest of his life. Forever. For the longest time that he will live, he will spend in prison. And from that, we will learn to close the book on a cult. Yeah? Because after a while, society, less than 2% of society will stand up for that cult. And it will dwindle away over the next 15 to 20 years. And even Fox News, and as it's already happened, they have been receiving the light of Christ and focusing upon the delusion of this false prophet. And they won't stand up for Trump, and they won't stand up for the lies that's coming from QAnon and many other places. You know, it's actually, doesn't matter about the money, it's the time of Christ. Yeah, and that's democracy. Yeah, so it's this process. You know, learn from it. You know that it's not over with. It's not until January 23rd or something. That's a long ass way. Yeah, noon. Yeah, and he's gonna drag it out all the way. You know, I've seen the pictures. You know, check this. Just relax. We're gonna make America great. Don't you worry. Yeah, it'll end up that way. You know, I doubt if he's going to walk out. You know, I've seen many people who drag their heels and are pulled out by their cuffs, and slowly but surely, you know, some who have to be put into a wheelchair and tied down and pulled out. You know, others have to be put on gurneys, you know, and tied down, given sedatives. You know, there's no telling to what degree this insane person will pitch a fit. You know, he's gonna believe you've made a mistake. He's gonna believe he's the Messiah. He's gonna believe that Satan rules this planet, and the only Messiah is Lucifer, and that's what he decrees. Yeah, and it's not true. It's not true. His time is over with. Yeah, he's been caught. We need to bring about justice. Yeah, so let's make a prayer. Trump, that guy. Okay, repeat after me. Lord Jesus the Christ, thank you for bringing me here. Lord Jesus the Christ, I open my heart to you today. I invite you to come inside. Lord Jesus the Christ, come and save my life. Receive me today as a child of God. Forgive all my sins and write my name in the book of life. I give myself to you, my spirit, my soul, my body. Receive me, Jesus the Christ. Now, the devil, the blood of Jesus the Christ is against you. I command you to leave me. I don't belong to you. I am God's property. Leave my life. I disassociate myself from you. I renounce every evil covenant. I have entered in with you. In the name of Jesus the Christ, I have received salvation. I am a child of God. Amen. Okay, we're going to do puja, and this one you watch the screen. And it's the 7 rays of God. So just relax. expressed as the soul. I invoke the sense of hearing in the seventh ray. Hearing the word of God, the word of power. I invoke the sense of touch and the first ray as the finger of God. I invoke the sense of sight as the third ray, as the eye of God. I invoke the sense of taste as the sixth ray, as the desire of all the nations. I invoke the sense of smell as the fourth ray, the beauty of revelation. I invoke the sense of intellect as the fifth ray, as the knowledge of God. I invoke the sense of intuition as the second ray, the understanding of God. I call upon the synthesis of the seven rays to be expressed through your personality. As the first ray of ideas, the mental body, the purpose, your life. Second ray of ideals, the astral body, and your quality. The third ray of idols, your physical body and your form. The fourth ray of the fourth kingdom of humanity in balance. The fifth ray, the third kingdom, the animals. The sixth ray, the second kingdom, vegetables. The seventh ray, the first kingdom, minerals. I call upon the relationships of all the kingdoms penetrate the personality of humanity and express its collective soul. The seventh ray and the first ray as the mineral kingdom. The second ray, the fourth ray, and the sixth ray as the vegetable kingdom. The third ray and the sixth ray as the animal kingdom. The fourth ray and the fifth ray as the human kingdom. The fifth ray and the second ray as the egoic soul. The sixth ray and the third ray as planetary lives. The first ray and the seventh ray as solar lives. Integrate the egoic ray and the personality ray of each nation, and to express its true expression, to make manifest peace on earth as one living body of God. I call upon India to bring forth its fourth ray of personality, to integrate its first ray of soul to manifest the hidden light. I invoke China to bring forth its third ray personality, to integrate its egoic soul into its first ray, to manifest as the indication of the way. I invoke Germany to bring forth its first ray of personality, to integrate its egoic soul of fourth ray, to preserve the truth. I invoke France and its third ray personality, to integrate its fifth ray of egoic soul, to release the light. I invoke Great Britain and its first ray personality, and its second ray egoic soul, to bring forth its service. I invoke Italy and its fourth ray personality, to integrate its sixth ray soul, to carve the two paths. I invoke the United States and its sixth ray personality, to integrate its second ray soul, to light the way. integrate its seventh ray soul, to link the two ways. I invoke Australia and its fifth ray personality to integrate its fourth ray soul and serve the lighted way. I invoke Spain and its seventh ray personality to integrate its sixth ray soul to disperse the clouds. I invoke Brazil and its second ray personality to integrate its fourth ray soul to hide the seed. I invoke the entity of this planet, the planetary logos, to incarnate the life and the beingness of this planet. I invoke the expression of the second ray force into both the personality and the egoic rays of the nation and the personality of the egoic ray of humanity, to fuse its light into its healing process. I invoke the esoteric law of solar energy to make manifest the cosmic force of light, love, and peace. Okay, just relax. Go ahead and open your eyes. Okay, so everybody just take it easy now. No problems, too big to solve. Okay? If you know any of my pujas and you pay attention to an enormous amount of teaching I do through my prayers, you'll notice that I do what it takes in order to change the world into democracy. And it sounds kind of like I'm changing the world into God's plan. You know, facilitating angels and Buddhas and Jesus and all these things you hear in the invocations. But in reality, those are the qualities of democracy. Yeah, they're the characteristic. The Christ himself is in the coming reality. So we're in a world where Christ is coming, or Christ is here, Christ is walking amongst us. So those invocations and everything are to prepare us for being able to change into the world that is more with and for Christ than the one that we're in. Yeah. So if you look at the last thing I just showed you, the 7 rays of God, what I do is that I invoke these rays in a formula that allows them to enter the nations, each nation. But they also enter into your senses, your hearing, your smell, your eyes, and I connect you to God's hearing, God's smell, and God's eyes, to where God's can be right in front of you, in your own sensory position. You could have that ability if you get out of all the cult reality and the brainwashing and all the things that happen that makes a person have knee-jerk responses. And they literally brainwash a person so that you cannot use your senses to understand what I'm saying, to be in democracy, to do all the things you're supposed to do are actually built into you in nature. They're built into you. Shouldn't be here to tell you should do it this way or that way, But what I can do is I can invoke the soul into the world and into you. And what that will bring about is democracy. And you're all wanting democracy, but you have no idea that you are following false prophets who are set up an agenda to keep you from democracy. The outcome is fascism. That's where we're at. We're coming from a guy who used to be a tyrant and was incarnated as a tyrant, as a fascist pig, who hates women, who hates black people, who hates Asians, who hates poor people, who thinks that there is a big class differences between people, which is capitalism in itself. It's in his mind, it's in his blood, it's in his past, it's in his future. A part of that is breaking the laws. You feel right about breaking the laws. You feel right about raping human beings. You feel right about ripping them off and taking their money and then claiming you're the richest person in the world while you're stealing from people. Stealing their votes, stealing their right to vote, stealing their democracy. That's what a fascist would do. Their job is to steal democracy. They have to. They can't let you vote. They can't let you do these things. They simply can't because they're a fascist. And then because they're a channeler, they will channel into their own supporters, screaming out at opposite people that they're the fascists. And yet their leader is a fascist. And everything they're doing is the expression of fascism. Everything they're doing, every single thing that they're doing. So we're in a process where you study Buddhism, you find out Buddha says everything is the opposite of what it appears. Everything is the opposite. So when we're in a world, in America, when we think we're in a democratic, best place in the whole world, what if we're in the worst place in the whole world? What if what happened to the Indians is still happening to the Indians? What happened to black people is still happening to black people? What if the lack of human rights in women to men is still happening? Just because we have a bias set into us from this cultural cult that is fascism or propaganda in relationship to how big we are as America, our flag and our nationalism and all the things that makes us what we are. It thinks to make us what we are, but we're not that. We're just led by capitalists, and they're using us. They're using propaganda, books, and other things in order to form your opinion of fascism and not democracy. There's very little sign of democracy in America. Very little sign. And that's what I'm going to make different. I am going to manifest democracy. Manifest it. It's not your choice anymore, because this is about justice. And when you're willing to take people who rape little kids and keep setting them free to go off and live their life in joy and prosperity and delusions of grandeur, and not make a difference in helping you to learn that that was a demon, and I and all of us made a mistake. Yeah? You can't learn unless you understand you made a mistake. Yeah? You must do this in order to abolish the process of their return. If you don't do that, you're cursed. You know, and what it is I'm giving you in your prayers and everything to release that curse, release your indebtedness with Satan, is all about this. If you actually do receive this impression of my blessing to get you to realize this is where we're at. We're not in a democratic world. This is not a democratic America. This is a fascist America. Yeah? And we're doing everything we possibly can to try and come out of it. But due to capitalism, our capitalistic leaders, our materialistic people who have rich, like beyond belief, basketball players, football players, everything, they're all fascists. They're not sharing their money with you. They're doing everything in the capitalistic fashion. And that is destroying you as a nation, as an American, who believes that you're democratic and you all have the ability to go up this ladder of economy. And you don't. You're in a capitalistic fascist situation. And you're cheering for the people who are destroying you. That's a cult. Only in a cult would you do that. You're doing it because you're controlled by your emotions. Yeah? And it's that emotion that'll make you, cheer along a person like Hitler. And you wonder how it is we followed Hitler when today you're following the same thing. And we're America. Yeah? And it's only because we're not democratic. We have no identification what democratic is until the second coming of Christ. And you're going to get it this time. Yeah? It's going to be placed upon you through the enlightened humanity that voted this man out and will put this man in prison. And every year that passes will become freer and more ordained in the right of humanity to become democratic. And our real human rights. Okay? So, take it easy. Enjoy. Blessings to you all.